Great example, Steven's coffee that he always used to like to get. That was the worst coffee ever. No one would drink it, so we were all making K-cups.
No, you guys just have bad taste.
That's possible, too.
No, you wouldn't tell.
No one told him.
No one told me. I'm like, you just tell me. I don't care. We can have 2 coffee. We can have 2. We can buy 2 machines.
It went on for several months.
It's funny.
Yeah.
I just like, is it Jordan? Yeah, I think it's Jordan. He, it's like football. We just assume everybody lives in Missouri is a Chiefs fan, right?
Right.
And he's like, I'm not a Chiefs fan. Like, really? He goes, yeah, you never asked me who was a fan.
Fair enough.
Like, good point.
Good point.
Good point. Guys, welcome to the Vetted Podcast. We're on our 3rd episode, and we couldn't be more excited to have Dr. Zach Whitehead, Ellisville Veterinary Hospital, right out of Ellisville?
Correct. Good guess.
Hey, great to have you here. We've known each other now going on 6 years here pretty soon.
That's impressive.
Isn't that fun?
It is.
Hey, you kept us around that long.
Yes.
I think what's more important than anything is the friendship, right? We said that.
Absolutely.
You are a client of Pro Partners, but first and foremost, friendships come first. And so we believe that, right?
Absolutely.
And so thanks for coming and being the first guest. When we thought about who the guest was going to be,
We were both like Zach. Immediately.
I appreciate it. I'm happy to be here.
you want to go by Zach or Doctor?
Zach.
Zach.
Please.
We knew that. We knew that. But, we always like to double check. And,
Absolutely.
it's one of the things we love about working with veterinarians because it's 1 out of 100 go by first name.
Yeah.
Which is great. Which is great. Yeah, 1 don't go. Thanks for the clarification there.
I couldn't let you have it.
Well, hey, Lindo's done a great job putting together an agenda for us today. We don't really need one
Sure.
per se, but we do want to stay on topic a little bit. And so, I think the first thing is, what about you, man? Tell us about yourself, your journey to becoming a veterinarian.
Sure. So my name's Zach Whitehead. I grew up in a town called Villa Ridge, Missouri, right outside St. Louis. Biggest town close to it is Washington, Missouri, where I went to high school at St. Francis Borgia. And then I went to the University of Missouri for undergrad, did a year of grad school there, mostly because I didn't get accepted into vet school. I'm not ashamed to say that. Second time I applied, I got into vet school at the University of Missouri. I graduated in 2008. Then I went and did a small animal internship in Austin, Texas at a private specialty hospital. Had an interest at that point in time of emergency and critical care. Thought I was going to go in and be an emergency and critical care specialist. Internship showed me that I really liked more than emergency and critical care. So I looked for a high-quality small animal practice back in the St. Louis area. And that's where I started my job at Ellisville Veterinary Hospital in 2009. In Ellisville, I've told this story before, but that was the hospital growing up that driving in, going to the big city, going to the mall, I would drive by that hospital and always thought, man, it would be cool to work at a hospital like that. So it came true and it happened. So that was back in 2009, and I've been there ever since.
Yeah, Ellisville, for the listeners that don't know a lot about St. Louis.
Sure.
Ellisville, Chesterfield, right?
Yep.
It's one of the big cities in St. Louis. And, like say your Clarkson, Clayton roads there, some of the major roads in St. Louis, where you're at.
St. Louis is one of those cities that downtown is not it's a big part, but the population is spread out through a whole bunch of little cities, little suburbs, and they all run into each other, and that's what Ellisville is. So
it's got that county without a city or the city without a county. How does that what is that little fact about that? Do you know that?
So, St. Louis City is its own entity, and then St. Louis County, where most of the population lives, is its own entity itself. So,
you said you graduated in 2008. What was it like trying to find a job or enter your career at a time where
something going on in 2008?
There was some things going on.
It was interesting in 2008.
Yeah.
I graduated vet school and was going into my internship, so I wasn't really thinking about getting a job because then I was going to apply for a residency. And then when I didn't, I was looking for a job. And in 2008, 2009, it was interesting because the economy was in a recession at that time. Housing market had just absolutely crashed. So veterinary industry was different. If you look at it now, veterinarians are just new graduates have, who knows, 3, 5, 6 job offers
Right.
when they walk out the door. When I was looking for a job, veterinarians are they always say recession proof. So that it wasn't that bad, but there wasn't as many hospitals looking for a job or looking for an associate vet at the time. So it was interesting to apply and look at all these different hospitals. I looked at 3. The current job I'm at, I absolutely was. I don't know if I told you guys this or not, but the previous owner offered the job to somebody else first.
Oh, really?
No.
And it was turned down. And that doctor turned them down. They wanted to focus on a different thing. So I was their second best option. So
That's good enough.
But
That's
yeah,
good enough.
Everything happens for a reason.
it does. So it was interesting then that it wasn't a guaranteed position like now. The candidates, they have their pick of the litter. They can pick exactly what they want.
How many graduated in 08 from veterinary school?
I believe there was 68 in our class at that time.
And now there's 120,
120.
right?
Yes.
And that hasn't solved the. Some we'll talk about, as we get along the veterinary.
No, that has not
shortage.
solved the problem. That's a whole discussion. Universities are the way they're doing it is not helping the veterinary population locally. So that's difficult.
Yeah, no, we'll dive into that for sure.
Absolutely.
Don't want to take away from talking about you, but you mentioned, I think what's neat about veterinarians, for those that don't know, when we ask our clients, prospects, people in the veterinary space, when did you know you wanted to be a veterinarian?
Yeah.
When was that?
So it's interesting. As a vet, I've been asked that a million times. And so I always knew I liked science and, the stereotypical answer of I love animals.
Yeah.
Growing up, I grew up around animals my whole life. I love them. I love science. So I was like, every kid wants to be a veterinarian. And I thought that would be cool. But what really solidified it was at 14, I started volunteering at a humane society, Franklin County Franklin County Humane Society.
Okay.
And I started volunteering there, and it was very interesting. When you first start, you start cleaning cages and doing all the manual.
Called scoop and poop.
Scoop and poop. And then what happened was I developed a relationship with my manager at the time. Her name is Barb, and we're still close to this day.
Good.
And she really got me involved in the other stuff at the Humane Society. I worked alongside the veterinarian who helped. They didn't have one on staff. She was a local one to Union, Missouri, Dr. Ava Frick. And she, working next to her and working with Barb, really got me interested in the side of veterinary medicine, because you work at a humane society, very limited funds, very limited on the medical treatment side of stuff, and that putting a lot of animals to sleep because there aren't funds to help them was really hard.
Yeah.
So it really inspired me to go to school and learn how to help. So that's when I knew I wanted to become a veterinarian.
Passion is like, people say follow your passion.
Right.
And in the veterinary space, there couldn't be more people following their passion.
Right.
As veterinarians, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's so cool. So we got passion, getting into that. So we need to talk about the journey to become the clinic owner now, right?
Sure.
I'll talk about how you didn't want to do it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Journey to ownership.
Yes. So I guess my journey to ownership, I don't know if it's unique, but it wasn't planned. I started back in 2009. At the time, Dr. Carter Smith owned the hospital I worked at, along with Dr. Doug Croft. And, I was happy being an associate. I was happy just doing my job, going home, and I was done. Well, kind of, being on call and all that stuff. But
Yeah.
I didn't have the business side to worry about. And, as we went along, 10, 11 years of being an associate, probably the last 2 or 3 years, when Dr. Smith started talking about retirement, he really started just showing me business things,
Mhm.
the books, how decisions were made, just casual conversations about the business itself, which really sparked my interest. And one huge thing that was happening at that time, and I know we're going to talk about it, were corporations coming in the whole corporate side of veterinary medicine started happening. And Dr. Smith, built this clinic over 35 years, longer than that probably. And it's been around a long time. There was two other owners. We can't get to the bottom of when it actually started, probably in the 50s. But his whole main goal was to keep it into the private hands, for it not to become a corporate hospital. And at the time, he was aware that to keep the hospital successful, to keep it in the hands of somebody who has worked there a long time, and to not have a new owner come in and just shake everything up. So his mentorship on the business side is what really led me to want to be an owner. And I don't want to say it was forced, because I obviously made that decision. But, as he approached retirement, he really set me up for success, and and led me into ownership.
That's really cool because the legacy is a big
Exactly.
piece of it.
Yes.
It's hard to, my family business sold to another company. There's not a single person left
Yes.
at that business that was there before. And I get people that say to me, I wish you were still here.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that other business is better or worse.
Right.
It's just different,
Exactly.
right?
Yes.
And so that's really cool. And we see that with veterinarians, Kale. I mean,
There's a lot of things that you see when you walk into your practice that you may not see at other people. Talk about Cannonball and the stories that you hear about Cannonball from
Absolutely. So Cannonball is a red-footed Amazon tortoise. He's been around. So when I started there in 2009, he was 38 years old. And if you ask Dr. Smith now, he's still 38. But he's a tortoise that has been there a very long time. And it's awesome because what is happening now is we are getting clients who are like, hey, I remember him as a child. And I actually have he's not a client anymore because he lives far away, but we were talking before we started recording about the firefighter who has a side job cleaning windows and stuff, but he showed up to pressure wash and do some work for us, and he's like, I have a picture of me in a diaper with that tortoise, because back then his parents were a client here. So it's amazing to see clients come in and show their kids a tortoise that they played with as a child. And thank God we have the client who actually gifted us the tortoise is still our client. And the tortoise is actually over 50 years old. So
that's cool.
Those types of stories are awesome, that we have that relationship with those families.
Yeah, that you got to have something that just it sets you apart too.
Yeah.
Not only does the great care you have with animals and the great rapport of people, but that's pretty cool. I think
Yeah.
it separates.
It is
things.
cool.
Yeah,
It's very cool. So
yeah,
Cannonball is a big part of the clinic.
that's cool. That
Yeah, I just think that that's one of those things that you don't get everywhere, is the generational stories and
Right.
and how fortunate you are to be in the position to have those relationships with your clients, deep rooted in the community business.
Yeah. And that's, we still see it in I've been there long enough now, going on 15 years, that I'm watching kids grow up and go to college. I'm seeing kids that didn't go to college yet, but have families after graduating college. So I love that part of it.
well, we've even seen at our veterinary networking event in September where there's people that come through and were at your practice as with their own animals with their parents, right? They're in veterinary school now.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think there's a couple
Yes,
that have talked to you,
there
right? They're
are.
like, what
Yes.
can I do after graduation?
Yeah, we have a
Yeah.
few that started, wanted to be vets, and some of them shadowed with us and are in vet school, and now in a few years graduating vet school. So it's awesome to see
Yeah.
that full circle. Because a lot of kids say they want to be vets, but to follow through with it is quite a commitment.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
awesome to see.
It's interesting. We're doing this podcast. Part of it's education, inspiration, and advocation because You know me. I'm an optimist. You know,
Absolutely.
I am an optimist, and you know Dr. Jim Schisler,
Yep.
and a good guy, retired St. Louis guy, and he was watching the podcast, and he said, "I am happy to hear you guys are optimistic about the veterinary community," and I was like, "I think there's a lot of optimism," but he hears the negative stuff.
Yeah.
Do you hear more positive or negative? High, low? What do you hear?
I hear both. I hate to hear the negative. I see the negative and I understand. I'm an optimist also. I just went out to Western States Veterinary Conference and, um, I love the business lectures that are optimistic about the industry. Does the veterinary industry have problems? Absolutely. And there's multiple levels of problems. And I'm sure we'll talk about some of those, but I hear a lot of negative talk about going into the veterinary industry, and I hate that because I do believe strongly that the veterinary industry, the veterinary profession, is you can get out what you put in. I think if you look for the negative, you're going to find it every single day. But
Yeah.
if you look for the great things about the veterinary industry, it's amazing. It's wonderful. And I hope that we can turn the tide and make more of it optimistic.
That's why we're sitting here.
Right.
Is to spread the good word, if you will. Not,
Yeah.
that sounds really gospel-y or something, but
Yeah.
essentially that's what it is. And I think that there's a lot of chance for optimism here. I get excited about the veterinary community because of the fact that you can own your own business,
Yep.
be successful in a world there's a lot of corporate. And the corporate, good and bad, right? There's
Right.
good corporates, there's bad corporates. But we do believe that where innovation comes from, or the next veterinarian comes from, is from the private practice owner in the community inspiring
Right.
that person to do the next. Plus, you've had to solve some things as a business owner,
Yeah.
right? I mean, it's
Absolutely.
like, how do I retain staff?
Right.
And there's how do I, keep the legacy of this going too? And you've been through that, I think,
Right.
with Dr. Mindy Hummel, right?
Absolutely.
To bring her on board.
Yes.
Yeah. Talk about that? How did bring on a partner?
Yeah. So it's we can go in a whole bunch of different directions. But when I bought the practice, it was and we'll get into this. It was a different time, but I do think the focus of veterinary medicine is changing. And just to sidetrack a little bit, what has changed a lot has been when I started. The vet down the street was a competitor. And now the privately owned hospital down the street is not a competitor. We try to support each other and we try to help each other out. And we've learned that it's not all competition in the industry. So that has been very helpful in just creating an environment of partnership. The veterinary world is very small. We all know each other. We all hear, and when somebody needs help, it's wonderful to see people jump out to help. But one negative thing is the corporate world that has come in is changed that, and the corporate hospitals can be competition, and they don't, and it's not the choice of the veterinarians who work there, but the support for the other hospitals around just isn't there. So getting back to Dr. Mindy Hummel, when I bought the practice, her husband he still works for us. His name's Dr. Craig Hummel. And my wife.
She was his boss already. Now she's really his boss.
She's really his boss. But we were needing another veterinarian. My wife she's still my wife, but at the time, she worked at another hospital down the road. I would never say it's competition because they're far enough that they weren't, but they did sell corporate and things changed. So we started talking through my wife. She was hinting, and we started talking with Dr. Mindy Hummel, and she came and joined the team as an associate, along with her husband. And then we have Dr. Doug Croft, who is an associate. He was previous owner. But so we had a great team. And I don't know how far you want me to get into it, but
yeah, we got it, man.
But what was interesting, what happened was the corporate hospital she used to work for got into a hard place with doctors, and they reached out and they offered her some pretty enticing things to come back. Be chief medical officer. A certain percentage of ownership and bonuses. They could throw money all over the place compared to what a private hospital can do.
Yeah.
And so that she didn't want to go back to that hospital. She didn't want to go corporate. And this is what she expressed to me. I'm not putting words in her mouth, but the money, she's got 2 kids in high school. It was something that was difficult because
Lifestyle choice.
Yep.
Yeah.
So we had to talk, and at the time I was 100% owner, and Mindy's amazing, and we have a lot of the same beliefs and ideas about the industry, about how to practice medicine. And so we talked about it, and that's how she got into ownership. So we negotiated, and now she's a partial owner of the hospital, and with that, I got to keep 2 great doctors, because if she left,
Yeah.
I don't see why her husband at the time, at that time, still her husband,
Everybody's still married.
right, would stay with us, just because that doesn't make sense. So
Yeah.
it was a difficult decision for everybody, but I think in the end we definitely won. So just because we have 2 great doctors, and now I have a partner in business that helps me out a ton.
Yeah.
So it's a great situation.
And Kale, you're I'd say instrumental in man, I can make words out of helping that along the way, right? And
You all were, absolutely.
it takes time too,
Yep.
right? It's like something that I think what happens in the corporate is they just boom.
Yep.
Here's your offer, make a decision. Where this over here was like, let's think this through. You don't need to make a decision today.
Right.
Let's spend we spent 6-12 months just like what's going to work, what makes sense for everybody. How does this have a future impact on you too?
Right.
It's not, what does that look like?
Right.
And what is everything when you become an owner? Let's make sure that when you're on the other side, you don't go crap.
Right.
Right?
Absolutely.
You're going to say crap from time to time on the other side.
Every day. Yeah.
But it outweighs
for sure.
that. So
Yes.
that's cool. I think. What do you see on that?
So, I mean, the question that I want to ask, and just because we talk about business every day, all day long, is like, what was the actual process of becoming a business owner like? I mean, what was the good that came out of that? What were the stressors that come out of that? What could have been avoided? What would you keep? All of that whole story right there. What you're comfortable sharing and everything, I think would be beneficial.
Sure. Just when I was buying in 2019, it was I don't know if I can cuss on this.
We've I think it's like ass, and maybe you can drop a shit here and there, But
so when I was in the process of buying, it was a shit show. And it happens because all of a sudden you have veterinarians who are not business focused thrown into a deal with lawyers, with banks, with accountants. And it's the lawyers for each side want the best for their side, and then you have us who want the deal done.
Lawyers want to spend your money.
The lawyers want to spend our money. And so there was just some crazy things that you don't even think about. Like the whole deal almost fell apart because of a contract with a laboratory.
Yeah, we've seen that.
And it was insane. And it took Dr. Smith just finally telling his lawyer that we have a gentleman's agreement, that we do not need to rewrite everything.
Yeah.
So it was
real quick.
Yeah.
The lawyers on your side, which we're friends with too.
Yes.
They're a good group.
Yes.
There's good and bad lawyers.
Yeah,
There's good and bad every business.
I just want to say that.
The lawyers I used during the deal are
Still
still
use.
my lawyers,
Still use.
and I've become friends with the main lawyer. He's awesome.
Yeah.
And they did a great job, and he was just standing back going, what the hell? Like, this is going to fall apart over a contract for a laboratory.
Yeah.
And so it was just, and then you got a giant bank involved.
Mm-hmm.
They want, very strict things, everything set in stone.
Yep.
So working with and around the bank's requirements are very difficult and very stressful.
Yeah.
And that's the lawyer's job and the accountant's job.
Yeah.
And I at the time I'm just a veterinarian. I've never worked with a lawyer that way. Maybe for a speeding ticket, but not for a big deal like
Yeah.
this. And I've never worked with an accountant before.
Yeah.
So it was I had to learn a lot. In the deal took it worked on it for a couple years, but once we got into a 4 to 6 month period of crunch time, and we had the bank telling us we had to close by this date. It got crazy. It was hectic because you're trying to practice full time
Right.
with each other, maintain a good relationship, which we did and still do, and we're proud of that.
You're still married.
Still married, absolutely.
With a child.
Well, yep. And so it was very interesting because he's getting phone calls, I'm getting phone calls.
Yeah.
We're talking to our lawyer in the same room,
Yeah.
and we're looking at each other, and we're like, they just need to get it done.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it was stressful for sure. It was
Yeah.
hectic. I didn't know you guys then,
No, we didn't.
so I was navigating that by myself. I had to, trust his accountants, and
Yeah.
so it was interesting.
I tell you, when we do help, between the transition from associate to ownership and the former owner to retirement, and when we're able to be in the middle of it, and we're not like one side's not advantage over the other side, where it's really about what's best for the practice.
Right.
It makes a big difference. But when we get in, very rarely do we get in situations kind of like you had dealt with, because we try to front load it with like, hey, this is how things need to go.
Yeah.
And we have no, skin in the game to say that you get a better deal than, and at the end of the day, Dr. Smith, Dr. Croft, who still works there,
Right.
are there. They're going
Right.
to come through the door. You want to see them. You want to, and sometimes the people in the community don't even know
Right.
that's your practice yet.
So that was our big goal. We didn't want clients to feel that anything is changing.
Yeah.
We didn't want them to know that we were going through a transition, and when we announced it when it happened, there wasn't new doctors coming in. It was going to feel the same. Unfortunately, Dr. Smith was retiring, and so he was going to not be there. That was a hard part for a lot of clients, but we did not want them to, and we didn't want the team to feel it.
Yeah, that's a big.
That was, the team knew it was happening, and they could see it. That we would a lot of quick closed door discussions and phone calls and meetings, but we wanted the practice side of it to stay the same.
That's awesome.
We didn't want to lose anybody.
Yeah.
So
That's huge.
the golden question here. Was it worth it?
Absolutely. 100%. It was worth it. I
Not 110%.
110%. So I mean that ownership is just a completely different world in veterinary medicine.
Yeah.
I love that I still get to practice veterinary medicine, but I also get to own the practice and run it the way I want it to run, and create a team and create a practice. Not create a practice, but continue to evolve the practice the way.
Well, this is Kale. You're a hell of a segue guy.
This sounds like a
He's
great
he's a
See how he
segue.
did that?
guy. Yeah, because
So-
he's getting into what's that word?
Culture.
Culture. Most important thing.
Yeah. I mean, that was next up on the agenda. And so so the question that I wanted to ask is what was the culture like when you first got there? And you probably saw things along the way that you're like, man, I wish I could change that, or I wish I could do that. And then
Yeah.
how did you go about actually crafting that culture? Because we have a great client that says you have a culture, whether you know it or not, and you can either build it or it's going to happen to you.
Absolutely.
And so, talk a little bit about what that was like.
Oh man. So, hindsight is the biggest thing with where we came from. So our culture when I started was way different than where we are now. And that unfortunately is a direct and fortunately if it's a good thing, but it's a direct reflection of leadership. And when I started the Dr. Smith was an amazing mentor for me, but his hospital manager at the time ran the clinic, and she ran it with an iron fist and created a culture of fear and just complete control.
Yeah.
And for me as a doctor, it didn't affect me the way it affected the team because um, at the way the business was structured, she was not my boss. So did we clash? Absolutely. Did I feel the tension, the negativity? Did I watch the fights, the screaming, the people walking outdoors? Absolutely. So as time went on and, ownership happened for me, I knew what kind of culture I didn't want. I didn't want to run with, rule with fear. I didn't want anybody screaming at each other. I wanted mutual respect. I wanted the team to feel like everybody was on the same level. So the number one thing for me that really started changing the culture of our clinic was my hospital manager. So Alexandra Wright is my hospital manager, and she is key to culture completely. We both have the same vision, the same feeling for culture. I think you could talk to a lot of business experts, and a lot of people say you should never call your business a family because you're not a family. You could fire people any day or not, but
I've also heard you should never say never.
I know. So when you spend more time with your coworkers than your actual family, what are you supposed to call them? You become friends. You care about each other. You get mad at each other.
Yeah.
So we want the team to feel like a team and a family, and that is very doable when you have a great team. They get their jobs done. They know what they're supposed to do. They're not fearful. They don't have people breathing down their necks telling them what they're doing wrong. You set up a management team. My head client service representative is amazing. My head tech is amazing. So when you have a leadership team that is great, it just things start to kind of fall into place without even trying.
The family thing, I hear that too.
I know.
And some places that's probably right for.
Right.
Right. But in a tight knit business, like you said, where you're all working together, it's family.
Yeah.
And I think where people get scared of that is trust.
Right.
And the culture that doesn't have trust isn't going to call somebody family.
Right.
And I think as we grow and evolve as businesses do, the way Dr. Smith had his business set up isn't the way it is for today. It's the 90s, it's the 80s, right?
Yes.
And as much as things are changing now, people's expectations are changing. People are looking for family because family, when Dr. Smith was around, maybe he came from a large family.
Yeah.
Right? And so you had that big group now, but now family's more what you make than who you were really even born, into.
Exactly.
So I think that's great.
And a huge thing, and even if I didn't want to call it family, when you have clients that walk in and say it feels like family, then that's a proud moment. That means we're doing something right.
Yeah.
When we have clients that just keep talking about how wonderful, they love walking in and they feel welcomed and we're laughing, we got music playing and it's great. And then when you have a team that's amazing at what they do, it's not always fun. We have stressful and hard moments. And when that team can just at the drop of a dime turn and do their job flawlessly, it's amazing.
That's good.
Yes.
That's really good.
Yeah.
It comes back to empowering your team to do
Absolutely.
what their skill set already is.
Yeah.
Right. A lot of times everybody knows what they're supposed to do, but if there's this fearful environment where am I going to get in trouble if I say something to this person and the client gets upset or something like that? Am I going to lose my job? Like you don't want that kind of a culture there.
Yeah.
And so it's giving your team the power and the go ahead to make the decisions that they need to make.
And that's a big thing we changed. We do have a leadership team in place, but everybody is empowered to make decisions without a fear of repercussions. I tell everybody everything's fixable.
Right.
On the business and client side, I mean, when you get down to the medicine side, that's a whole different. Not everything's fixable, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But in a business side, and just people, when you have a brand new technician who's 20, 21 years old coming out of school, and they're empowered to make decisions, it's amazing to watch them grow because you encourage them, you coach them. Yeah, they're going to make mistakes, but you're not screaming at them. Their job's not on the line because they made a mistake. They're learning, and that's a huge thing. I heard a lecture at MVMA this year. The keynote speaker, she's a radiologist. I think she teaches down at Texas Tech now. But a big culture or a big change in how we teach people, we shouldn't teach on the basis of fear.
Right.
You
Right.
you sit in a. She was at the morning lecture, and she put a X-ray up on the screen of a room full of veterinarians, and she asked a question, and not one veterinarian wanted to raise their hand because we're afraid of being wrong.
Yeah.
And that's what she's trying to change. And it's amazing because that's what we do need to change.
Yeah.
What's wrong with being wrong? Raise your hand and be wrong, and then learn why you're wrong.
Absolutely.
So I love that idea. And, that's something we try to do in our clinic is it's okay to be wrong as long as you learn from it.
Don't repeat it too many times, right?
Right. I mean, it's
better.
especially in our field, you can't be wrong too many times without doing
You're
something
talking
hard.
about like it's like the customer service
Yeah.
experience, client experience side out here, front end, right?
Right.
Scheduling, all those things versus when I'm the care of the animal,
Yes.
prescribing, diagnosing, surgery, whatever that is.
Yep.
That's pretty exact,
It is.
right?
Absolutely.
And you learn better ways to do that still.
Yes.
Usually not through making mistakes, though. That's what's about
No.
medicine's more like I learned because how to make it better, not because I messed
Right.
up. It's like, how do we get better?
And if they're not fearful, they ask questions and then they
Yeah.
prevent those mistakes. They're not afraid to come to a more experienced technician or a doctor and say, hey, I don't know how to do this. Can you show me?
Mm-hmm.
And that's awesome at the development of our team.
Yeah, that's mentorship
It's huge.
is big. And I think when you hear on the highs and lows, you're talking earlier, in the lows, we've got this cultural shift on how doctors, I don't want to put any age bands on anybody, right?
Sure.
But you do hear that where they're like, these new veterinarians come out of the school, don't know what to do. And I don't think it's that they don't know what to do. And when those people are talking about that, it's that they're afraid to ask.
Right.
Because they're afraid if I ask, I'm going to be belittled.
Right.
Even, right? It's not even a fear of being wrong. It's a fear also being belittled.
Yep.
And you have to be exactly what you said. And, Dr. Lauren Herman, my wife, she, in her class, she's had someone that, mom died, and they're from Greece.
Yeah.
And she was worried about missing class. And Lauren's like, it's fine.
Yeah.
We'll work with you. And actually, don't even worry about that assignment.
Right.
Like, don't worry about that assignment.
Yeah.
I'm gonna adjust your grade
Right.
without that assignment in it because
Yeah.
mom passed away. You got to fly all the way back to Greece.
I think that was a huge impact that Dr. Smith had on me because his leadership may have been different, but family was always first.
Yeah.
And it's not, when he came out of vet school, it wasn't that. It was,
Right.
you work 14, 16 hours at the clinic, you accept every client, you could take every phone call,
Mm-hmm.
your family can wait. And he changed that, and I loved it. And that's how we run our, like, just as you mentioned, if somebody's sick, if somebody's kid is sick, if somebody's brother's sick, if somebody's cousin, and they need time off, they get time off, and we will work around it.
You
So-
trust them that they're being honest because you hear that too. Some people are like, they call in all the time, and you're like, well, how's your culture? How is
Right.
it family? Maybe they're calling in because the culture's not good.
Right.
And so it's giving you a seed of doubt about why they're calling in. But you're
Absolutely.
going, no, they're calling in because it's legit.
And I've seen that shift with the team. We had the time when people called in because they didn't want to come to work because of reason A or B, and that's a big thing that we've learned to change. And we can open so many doors of so many discussions, but
You're going to have to come back again, huh?
yeah. But I've learned from my mistakes. I've learned that keeping that one toxic person too long does create. Well, why are these people calling in every Monday or every
Yeah.
Wednesday?
Yeah.
And then you look at the schedule and you see that maybe that one toxic person is there with them when they're opening or
Right.
close, and so it all makes sense. So
I think and I believe we know what you're talking about on
Yeah.
that one, right?
Yeah.
But what made that tough is because you have that family environment, and you're thinking about if I let someone go, I failed, or
Yep.
what did I do wrong? Right? It's tough.
it is, especially when you're trying to coach that person and you want the best for them and you want them to change, but
Yeah.
and I don't expect, it is a job to a lot of people. There's not the same commitment or the same relationship with the job is that everybody has something different.
Right.
So, it's hard when those people don't respond to the coaching because, it is just a job to them, and that's okay. But we're not the right job for them.
Maybe they'll thrive somewhere else.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Find another bus to ride on,
Yep.
and maybe that's the right
Yep.
bus for you.
Are you ready to elevate your practice but unsure where to begin? Look no further than DVM Office. As a veterinary exclusive firm specializing in the AHA chart of accounts, we provide tailored, actionable data for your practice. Whether it's tracking growth, industry comparisons, or decision impact, count on us for insights. Learn more at thedvmoffice.com.
So,
Yeah.
but culture, it's a constant battle. We've been working on it now, since going on 5 years now, and you can't ever just give up because it constantly changes, and you constantly have to work on it.
Yes.
Yeah, it's never going to stop.
It's not.
No.
Yeah.
It's wonderful when when you look at our team and all of them have been there for multiple years. That's something to be proud of.
Absolutely.
And we're, it happens to lose somebody here and there, and that sucks. But when you have people that have spent most of their career there, I love looking at technicians that my head technician came out of school, started there. She's my head technician. I've known her now, going on 15 years. She started a year before I started there.
That's
And
awesome.
it's great.
Yeah.
And my other technicians are becoming the same way. And I love it. And the same with the front staff and, our assistants and the other it's just great.
That's great.
So,
Yeah. Culture eats strategy for lunch. Is that
Or
what-
breakfast,
something
whatever
for
meal you want it
breakfast and
to.
dinner?
and the best part is it makes it fun to go to work.
Yes.
Our job's
Yeah.
stressful enough, man.
Yeah.
It sucks some days.
Yeah.
But when you have a team around you that you could come out of a room, with tears in your eyes and they're doing something dumb and you start laughing, it's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, I mean, I think you text me occasionally about that. Man,
Yeah.
it's been rough today, and
Yep.
and then you spill your soda on your laptop and make
Yeah.
it worse.
Yeah. And then you find out it's still under warranty.
And then it's
fixed
great
now.
again.
Yep.
And it's all
exactly.
good.
Yeah.
Highs and lows, right?
Exactly. Yep.
And that's in every bit. Maybe very unique situations in your guys' business.
is.
And I have significant respect for a lot of the things that you guys have to go through on a daily basis. Emotionally that we never have to deal with. But I think it's important to have that culture to help you through it, like you just said.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's a hard industry. I mean, not to go down a negative thing, but compassion fatigue is real. We just lost a veterinarian 2 days ago to suicide, which is absolutely horrible. But I do believe having the team, the culture that's open, if somebody's feeling that way, can they talk to us about it? I think that's huge, and that's a focus that I've really worked on is that what's the word I'm looking for? That family dynamic, the work-life balance. That's huge.
Yeah.
Because veterinary medicine has its dark side and it's hard.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
and that's a constant battle.
It's who you surround yourself with.
Absolutely.
I mean, it is. I think it was Tony Robbins. I think everybody knows Tony Robbins.
Yeah.
He does such a good job on that. I reshared his post yesterday about who you surround yourself with is how your life's going to be.
Yeah.
If you believe it's negative, you're surrounded with negative people, it's going to be negative.
Yeah.
And sometimes you got to make hard decisions and get out of that and move to something else, make a change. But when people are negative, there's outliers. There's certain circumstances that are, but for the most part, being negative, it's going to be a negative place.
And surrounding yourself, when I was buying the practice, my banker from Bank of America taught me
You can
that.
say his name.
Chris Howard. He's awesome.
He's a good friend of all
But
of ours. Yeah.
his whole thing for me, his coach, he had a job to do. He worked for the bank. I get it, but
He's unique.
he is.
in
But
banking.
the biggest thing he taught me, and that's how I met you guys, was success comes with surrounding yourself with successful people.
Yes.
And you create a team, not in your hospital, but outside of your hospital. Your strategist, your lawyer, your accountant. Your anybody that your drug reps, your lab reps.
Yep.
You have a positive team, and you're gonna have your situation is just going to be positive.
One of the last proposals I did for a transition client, I said that exactly right before I got off the proposal, right, wrong, or otherwise. You don't coach me on this, but I said, hey, whether you go with us or not,
Absolutely.
doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Make sure the team that you do pick, that you trust each member of it.
Yeah.
And so, your lawyer's going to be huge. Your accountant's going to be huge. Your support system at home is going to be huge through this whole system, because there's going to be
Yep.
days where you go home so stressed you can't even really think, and there's going to
Right.
be days where you're excited about it and the emotions are going to be going. But the team that you surround yourself with is probably almost as important as purchasing itself.
Absolutely.
And so that was kind of one of the things that I always try to say is the team that you surround yourself with is
Yeah.
huge.
No, that's exactly what we say around here. It's like, hey, same thing here. As a veterinarian, you may get along with us, you may not.
Right.
We're not right for every veterinarian.
Absolutely.
At Pro Partners, there's just no way. But there are certain people that we get along with, and let's work with people we get along with and can have
Right.
a good relationship with.
And I've talked to other veterinarians that you guys are aware of that they talk to you and maybe that didn't fit, but my advice to them after that is you need to find somebody that does fit,
You need
though.
to find somebody.
You can't do it alone.
Yeah.
Not today. The veterinarians, of the 80s and 90s that did it alone, it's just
Yeah.
success isn't going to come with that.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, hey, Dr. Whitehead. Sorry.
Yes.
Sorry. So I'm just listening just to take you back a bit. You spoke about like the mental health side of things. So as a vet student, for example, that comes out of MU, or you're looking for a veterinarian to hire or something, how do you and your team tackle the mental side of things when it comes to the vet space? Because it is the dark side of when it comes down to the vet space,
the biggest thing we do, and this isn't right for everybody. One thing that is right is you got to be open. You got to talk
Yeah.
about mental health. And one thing that we do that, like I said, isn't right for everybody, but laughter is a huge therapeutic thing. So, I have a team that if a stranger walked in some days and heard what we're joking about, would think they need to call professionals to come in. But the fact that people can express their feelings, even in a joking manner, is a huge thing for mental health, because mental health has always had a stigma to it, and I think it's getting much better. And as a team and as a leader, sometimes being able to be open and call in because you're just not having a good mental health day is okay.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have to be a physical illness to not want to come to work, but I also want team members to feel like coming to work can be therapeutic, can be what they need instead of staying home alone or, sitting and just thinking about things too much. But I think being open is one of the biggest things that we do. And so there's a lot of clinical things we could do. You can make sure that everybody knows there's support, there's phone numbers, there's groups, there's, Not One More Vet is an amazing group, and make sure everybody's aware.
Yeah. Is it
But
NOMV.org?
NOMV.org.
Yeah.
So everybody knows those things are available, but they also have to know that my phone is open 24 hours a day.
Right.
You call me, and if that means that's crying on the phone about, the dog we had to put to sleep that we've known for 15 years, or just angry at my hospital manager or one of the other doctors, that there's a safety there, that there's openness, that they can talk, they can express their feelings, we can work on a plan. And I think that goes for my hospital manager because, not everybody's going to be happy with me all the time. So they can call her, they can call Dr. Mindy, they could call any of the doctors.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's a huge thing, is just being open, and they have to feel comfortable.
Yeah.
And that's the main thing we work on. Are we perfect at it? Absolutely not. Do we work at it constantly every day? So
You have forgiveness.
Forgiveness is
And then
huge.
reconciliation too, right?
Absolutely.
Both.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that's what we really try to do.
That's Lindo, thank you. It was a great question. I apologize. We've had you actually you're on a chair, so I mean you're not at least standing against a wall this time, right? We're got you halfway comfortable. So, Lindo, you got any more gold like that, or what? That was make us look like we got bad questions the whole time. That's why I don't want you to jump in too often. You know?
No, it is just like, as we all read, especially in the vet space, like mental health plays a big part. Not even
Yeah.
in just that, man, just as in life in general. So
Yeah.
it's nice to hear from an owner how they tackle those things. And
Well,
I'm always looking for different things to do, and
yeah.
it's a battle. It's a struggle because I do worry. I do worry about my team. I
Mhm.
worry, I worry about myself because it's a lot of pressure to have on your shoulders. But when again, it's the team that's around you that helps you with that.
Yeah.
You have a good team, somebody you can text that maybe isn't in the industry as a veterinarian or a vet tech that I do with Kale, and I appreciate. But it's important who you surround yourself with too.
Okay.
So
Snoop Dogg's got a great video on Closing the Gap.
yeah.
Have you guys seen
I
that?
don't know that I have.
Oh, you gotta check out Snoop Dogg's Closing the
How
Gap.
did my comment trigger Snoop Dogg in your mind?
Because what he talks about is where he grew up to where he is.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And he said as he went up. I mean, he's obviously at the top, right? And as he went up, he constantly had to close the gap, meaning that he either would close the gap this way or close the gap this way, meaning some people are going to be left behind.
Yeah.
Right. That aren't up here to bring you up.
Yeah.
And so that's it's like 2.5 minutes.
Yeah.
Closing the Gap by Snoop Dogg.
I need to watch that.
It really it gets it. I think anyone should watch it.
Yeah.
It just makes a whole lot of sense. He's a master with words, right?
Right.
So he does a really good job. No, that's a big deal. I'm glad that you're open. Mental health's real. But I think the thing is with animals, Dr. Michael Blackwell, he was keynote speaker in NVMA 3 years ago, I want to say,
Yep.
right around
3
there.
years ago.
And the correlation of actually improved mental health with animals for people.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, so people that don't have anybody at home,
Right.
like coming home to having that animal. So I mean, you do provide through what you do with animal care a lot of, I would say, good mental health things for your clients. Is your clinic facing a talent shortage? You're not alone. In today's competitive landscape, finding the right people can feel like searching for a needle in a haystack. Recruiting top-notch veterinary talent doesn't have to be difficult. DVM Connect is here to revolutionize your veterinary recruiting game. We're the secret weapon you never knew you needed. Our social media experts will partner with you to curate a personalized recruitment strategy that fills your clinic with passionate, qualified individuals. Say goodbye to wasted time and hello to a collaborative, stress-free journey towards building your dream team. For more information, visit us at propartnersteam.com. It's a big deal.
I mean, we see a lot of the clients, especially the elderly, unfortunately,
Yeah.
that's all they have. You hear this is where compassion fatigue is coming into play, but we have to learn and we have to appreciate what we do. But you have the client who comes in and their husband died and it was their husband's dog.
Yeah.
And, that puts a lot of pressure on us.
Yeah.
And then when the day comes that we can't do anything else and they lose that one connection, or the dog that was their son's dog who died in a car wreck. I mean, it's horrible, but how we handle ourselves in the room and the reward we get from that client when they thank us, even though
Right.
they just lost that very important or most important pet, it makes it all worthwhile. So
Yeah, that's when you get someone that comes in, and wonders why you're 15 minutes behind.
yeah,
Right?
that's a
And they
big
don't-
understanding that people don't have.
They think you've just been checking dogs out all
Right.
day long, do some nail trims, manual
Yeah.
gland expressions, and pump some vaccines in, and next.
I can tell you I've never been late to an appointment because I was sitting at my desk doing crossword puzzles or, it just,
You
it-
weren't messing around.
we weren't, I mean, it's hard and, a whole nother conversation, but
Yeah.
that's what people have to realize is that we're not late because we want to be late.
Yeah. Our podcast, I'm assuming a lot of veterinary community is going to watch this, but if you have an animal, you're in the veterinary community. We hope people that are on the other side, of the service consumer side, right?
Yep.
You're the provider. You got consumers. They need to understand.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the compassion coming through the door on their side to go, you're doing everything,
Yeah.
and never know what you've been dealing with.
I've read a wonderful post. Forgive me for not knowing who started it, but it's on Facebook, and it talks about it's a privilege to wait. If you're at an emergency room as a human, or if you're at a veterinary emergency hospital and you're waiting, you should realize that's a privilege, because what has ever happened to you or your loved one, be it your child or your dog or your cat, if you're waiting, that means that, yes, it is an emergency, but you're not critical, or your pet's not critical. If you go to an emergency room and they whisk you straight to the back, or somebody runs up and takes your pet, that's scary, and that's really hard.
Phenomenal.
So it's a privilege when you get to wait on me.
It is. It's a privilege when I'm sitting in the room 9 minutes after noon, just sitting here.
I think
where he's at.
it's
Is that what it
extremely
is?
situational.
Oh crap! I
Yeah.
can't
You
use it. I
can't
can't
use
use it in that one.
But
No.
it's a great, it's an
But-
absolutely great point.
Yeah.
It is.
If you look at just the veterinary industry, if you're at a urgent care, if you're at my hospital,
Yeah.
or if you're at a true emergency specialty hospital and you're waiting, I know it sucks and it's scary and it's hard, but we are not just sitting around waiting. We are back there trying to save another animal. We're
Yeah.
trying to treat, I at times I do wish that the clientele as a whole could see what's actually happening in the back.
Yeah.
Not all the time, but at times. So
Well, I've said it probably in every episode, but Dr. Melanie Bowden's.
Yep.
That I ruined the title is not a day in the life of the vet, but that's what it's about. Is about
Yeah.
a day in the life of a vet, and I kind of feel like you just play that in your waiting room.
I know.
Just have it just on repeat, just playing in the waiting room. Not that that's a
I
great
do
idea,
think
but,
people are getting more aware.
Yeah.
Again, that falls on us, and it falls on our team for education,
communication.
and that's a huge thing we've worked on in the past 5 years with
Yeah.
our clients.
Yeah, makes a big difference.
It does.
for sure.
Part of this podcast, of course, is inspiration, right?
Yep.
And there may hopefully be some people out here listening to this that might want to start a clinic or might want to purchase a clinic. So, what
Sure.
advice would you have after having been through that?
It's a hard question to answer.
I know.
So we've already talked about the main thing, and that's the team around you. If you're going to start a clinic or you're going to buy a clinic, make sure the team around you is supportive, and not just. It's got to start with family. It's got to start professionally with consultants, banks, lawyers, accountants, but also your team at your clinic, or the team that you want to build for your clinic. Is you just have to have an amazing team around you.
Yeah.
You got to be supportive. You gotta have the people that are gonna give you the hurrahs, but also say, what the hell are you doing?
Yeah.
I think that's very important. I think you have to be realistic. I think your expectations have to be set to a point where there's going to be huge failures, there's going to be huge disappointments, and that's okay.
Yeah.
And it's hard because you don't know when those situations are going to happen or what's going to be thrown at you. So being okay with that, being flexible is another huge thing that I would strongly recommend. So.
Would you strongly recommend people get into private ownership?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I think private ownership is probably one of the best decisions I've made. Just, there's huge benefits financially, don't get me wrong.
Right.
But
right.
that's not the reason that I love it so much that I didn't think I would.
Yeah, we know your passion is for veterinary
Yes,
medicine. We know
it
that.
is.
Yeah.
It's getting to practice the medicine that I want. It's getting to have the team that I want.
Yeah.
It's getting to watch everybody else succeed, which is awesome.
Yeah.
I love it. And you can't do that with corporate medicine, unfortunately. And
Right.
But in private ownership, I think it's well worth it.
Yeah.
Is there anything that surprised you about being a business owner that you were like, I would have never guessed that I should have been thinking about this?
QuickBooks.
Yeah.
Learning
segue
how to use
to
QuickBooks.
segue to the DVM office
Yeah.
commercial.
And DVM office.
I think I was unique, and I may be jumping out of order here, but
There's no order.
I when I purchased in 2019, I was all hurrah, ready to go, and
Sure.
2020 hit, and the world flipped upside down. So for my ownership, that's where flexibility came in, and that's where having a team around me.
Yeah.
I don't think we were we working together yet?
We started in just a few months after you bought. It was like
Okay.
November, December of
So-
2019 is when we started working
But
together.
that's where having a team behind me, assuring me that we were going to be okay.
Yeah.
Probably the biggest thing I had mentioned. I mean, another shout out to Chris Howard,
Yeah.
commercial for Bank of America there.
They'll appreciate that.
He called me when, shit was hitting the fan,
Mhm.
everything was shutting down. He literally called me, and, maybe he was lying just to make me feel better. But he said, the bank is behind you. You're not going to fail.
Yeah.
So that they just give me a lot of money.
Yeah,
They do not want me to fail.
No, they don't want the practice.
So knowing
Yeah.
that was a huge relief, and
Yeah.
it let me focus on planning because my biggest what about my team? If I have
Yeah.
to close the door for months, what about my team? They have
Yeah.
no jobs, they're not getting paid. How do I pay them?
Yeah.
We were looking at everything. So that was a huge surprise, and I think that's very unique. That I hope we don't have another pandemic ever in my lifetime or whatnot, but that's a whole different discussion. But but I think that goes back to being flexible and having a team around you that the surprises that come up can be handled and navigated. I think I other surprises. I mean, it is just expectations from teams. Like, we're all human.
Yeah.
You got to remember you're working with people of different backgrounds, different ages,
Mhm.
and so that's been I have a mindset that it's like, okay, we go this way and that's how we're gonna go,
Yeah.
and then other people start asking why, and so it's just the uniqueness and the mesh of the team shouldn't be a surprise, but it was.
I think as a business owner, getting into that role, you do see the vision. You see what's going on. You figure everyone else sees it.
Yeah,
Right? Is that? I mean, as it
exactly.
gets into it, and you're like,
Yeah,
maybe I didn't communicate that with
right.
everybody.
Or
And they want to know why.
yeah,
They don't want to just be told. And that's the thing. Like back 20 years ago, you could just say, "We're doing this.
right.
It's going this direction."
And that's a huge thing, that I've also done is the team gets to be involved in almost all major decisions.
Yeah.
The building we're in is 30, 40 years old. We wanted to paint, so we threw up a bunch of colors and let people vote on them.
That's cool.
It was awesome.
Yeah.
We're talking about our emblem is, who knows, 50 years old.
Yeah.
So we're gonna select a new one, and the team gets to vote on it. So
Yeah.
letting them be involved in huge.
You want me to do design for you?
No, that's okay. But
You see
even
my website?
yeah, it's beautiful.
Thank you.
Don't
Yep.
go to the website.
Don't go to the website yet. But my hospital's talking about building another hospital, so we threw it out there. What does everybody want? What don't they like about the current hospital that they want if we build a new hospital? So letting the team be involved is huge, because as an owner, I think I have great ideas, and then when the team tells me it's a horrible idea and tells me why,
Yeah.
I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
you could tell me it's horrible, but as long as you tell me why.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
And then,
feedback, good feedback.
what's a better idea? Like,
Yeah.
have a suggestion.
Yeah,
So-
I try to tell Kale and Lindo and everybody around here to go, if you don't like what's going on, let me know.
Right.
Because if you don't let me know,
Right.
you know me, I'm just gonna keep on.
Right.
I'm gonna keep on going.
Right. And you think it's great, and then everybody's mad, and you're like, why?
Yeah.
So it's much easier to communicate it at the beginning.
Great
Yeah.
example, Steven's coffee that he always used to like to get. That was the worst coffee ever, and no one would drink it, so we were all making K-cups.
No, you guys just have bad taste.
That's possible too.
Yeah.
No, you wouldn't tell.
No one told him.
No one told me. I'm like, just tell me. I don't care. We
Yeah.
can have two coffee. We can have two. We can buy two machines.
It went on for several months.
It's funny.
Yeah.
I just like, is it Jordan? Yeah, I think it's Jordan. He, it's like football. We just assume everybody lives in Missouri is a Chiefs fan, right?
Right.
And he's like, I'm not a Chiefs fan. Like, really? He goes, yeah, you never asked me who I was a fan.
Fair enough.
Like, good point.
Good point.
Good point. So, well, Kale, Linda, what more? We've got, I don't know, a lot we can dive into.
Oh yeah. I just have another question, doctor. So like, as you've had your practice since 2019, right?
Yes.
So what achievements or milestones are you like most proud of since you've been an owner?
Culture is the biggest thing I'm proud of. The fact that we have changed the team, how it feels to walk into work, like I said, it's a constant battle, but we continue to work on it. Culture is probably the thing I'm most proud of uh, as a business owner. If you get to the financial side, we hit a milestone this year financially that was we were super proud of, a number that the hospitals never hit. So as an owner, that does it reflects the team obviously also, but those are probably the two things I'm most proud of. And I think surviving COVID obviously was very. I'm proud of that. It's traumatic. I've blacked it out in my mind, but I think I'm proud of that. But culture is the biggest thing. My team, some days they probably don't feel like that, but the team that we've built and that continues to be there is probably what I'm most proud of.
Nice. Talking about you, proud of. I mean, I'm looking on here at the Ellisville Vet Receipts Police Department Award. That wasn't a ticket. It was the actual award. You take care of some canines for the police department, right?
We do. We take care of Ellisville Police Department's canine. Both are canines. They just retired one. They got a new one. We have a great relationship with the police department. My best friend's a police officer, so I have a strong connection to law enforcement and first responders. I respect them deeply, and so when I had the opportunity to pay something back that in my mind is minimal for what they do every day.
Yeah.
I'm proud of it, and I think the relationship we have, and it's fun. Again, I go back to my team. It's fun when the police dog comes in and the whole team goes to the front, or we got multiple officers who stop in, and I love that it feels like they just like to hang out.
You can really say your office is drug free.
Yeah, well, yes, it is. Except the ones that are supposed to be there.
Yeah, I mean the drugs
exactly.
that are controlled substances that we need.
Yes, exactly. So I always joke with my team that hey, the police dog's coming, so I'm going to let them walk by the lockers. So, but no, we have a great relationship. I'm proud of it. I love that they work with us. So I they ask why, and then they just don't understand that we're doing it because it's what they do.
Yeah,
and we appreciate and respect them.
Well, we thank you for that too,
Absolutely.
because what you've done with the police department, and that how important that animal is, that dog, to that police department, what they can do is amazing.
They are truly a tool that is just amazing.
It's invaluable.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah. So no, hey, had to find a little something.
I appreciate
right
that.
Too. You got that, and looking through some old news here, and even Google you and you find McConnell to wed Whitehead. Talk about your family a little bit.
Yeah. So my wife, Melissa, we met in school. I was a third-year vet student at Mizzou. She was a technician student from Crowder College down in Neosho, Missouri. Technicians in school have to do preceptorships. They have to go work places just like veterinarians do before they can get licensed. So she came to the University of Missouri, and it's just like any college boy. Where I was like, "Ooh, who's that?" And so
you're not like any college boy.
Oh well, no.
One in a million.
So we became friends, and then we started dating, and so she had to go back to school. We did long distance my fourth year, and got accepted into my internship in Austin, Texas after I graduated, and I said, hey, do you want to move to Austin? And she did, and
that's awesome.
The rest is history. We got married in 2012.
Yeah.
We have an 8-year-old daughter who is just amazing.
You're a good dad. I love all the posts with you and Brinley.
God, she's fun. So my wife, like I said, she's a technician, but now she worked for another hospital for 11 years. She was amazing. I did ask her a huge ask to to become a stay-at-home mom.
Yeah.
Which, as someone who's a very talented technician, was a big ask of her.
Yeah.
But we are blessed. She gets to come fill in at my hospital when the techs need to take some time off. But she's a stay-at-home mom. which is a full-time job, but
Yeah.
more of a full-time job are the animals she's collected. So we got horses and ducks and chickens and dogs and cats and snakes and birds and
Yeah.
fish. So
yeah.
we have everything. So
That's awesome.
yeah.
Well, I'm glad you have ducks.
But again, she's first and foremost part of my team, and then probably the most important part, to go home and have somebody that understands.
Mhm.
There's a lot of veterinarians, and I'm not saying this disrespectfully, but they go home and they have partners that just don't understand. They want to understand, they try to understand, but until you're in it and you experience it,
Yeah.
it's invaluable to have somebody that you can go home and there's no judgment. You can just talk about what happened,
Right.
good things and bad things, and you can show pictures. Don't look on veterinarians' phones. But they're not grossed out, so
Yeah.
it's wonderful. She's amazing.
That's your support system, right? I
Absolutely.
mean, huge part of it.
Yep.
Right, number one part.
Yes.
So
Yep.
that's
Absolutely.
wonderful. Family matters, and you said that work life. We kind of say work life blend, because
Yeah.
balance is like you're never really balanced. But how do you
It's truly a blend.
blend, especially when you own your business?
Yeah, it is.
I mean, it's the same.
Yeah.
Work and life. Family.
Absolutely. I'm
It's-
sitting here, my phone's vibrating, and hoping my business isn't burning down. It's
That's a true test to see if you own a business or not.
Yeah.
Is can you leave and it still be there when you get back?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's I go back to Dr. Mindy, and that's the beauty is I have no worries.
Yeah, that
So
makes a big difference
you
having a
got
business
people who
partner.
can make, decisions that are, and you don't have to worry about it. So
So, anything else you think that's important? We've asked a lot of questions. You said a lot of great things. We can keep going, and we're going to keep going. We're going to have dinner,
Yeah.
but that's going to be off camera,
Absolutely.
off mic.
Yep.
But anything else you want to add?
I don't know if we're getting to it, but a big thing I want to talk about that we're shifting is clients. Clients is a huge thing,
Yeah,
and when you talk about burnout,
clients are or is a huge thing.
they are a huge thing. I'm
kidding.
sorry. When you talk about
You'll call me
burnout,
some names for
I
that
know.
later.
and you talk about burnout, you talk about compassion fatigue.
Yeah,
COVID brought about some horrible changes in
Yeah.
people,
yeah,
and not just in veterinary medicine, but around the world. In in retail, in
Yeah.
almost any business that is restaurants, and I do believe it's improving. I truly do, but one of the biggest things that we talked about already is empowering the team.
yeah,
And one thing that changed was, when a client is screaming and cussing on the phone, they used to have to listen to it and just apologize and take it. And I always ask them, I said, why did you not hang up? And they're like, we can. And I said, absolutely.
yeah,
If you are uncomfortable, if you're threatened, if they're hang up on them.
yeah.
Nobody deserves to hear that. If they're in the front lobby, walk away. Come
Mhm.
get me. They could scream at me all they want,
Yeah,
but it's empowering the team. But it's also, one thing that changed from ownership, but also a time thing, is firing clients. We
Yeah.
don't have to allow those abusive clients to stay.
absolutely.
Because just like the bad apple on the team, a bad apple client is going to affect everybody.
Yeah,
So that was a huge thing we changed is clients. And,
Mhm.
it goes back to, it's a privilege to wait.
yeah,
If, hopefully I hope some clients enjoy watching this podcast. I know it's a lot of veterinary medicine and business, but
yeah,
one thing is just be a good client.
yeah.
We're there for you. We're there for your pet. There's not one veterinarian I've ever met who does this for the money. We're not there,
Right.
No, you didn't build or pay for that wing of the hospital. You didn't pay for my child's education. I had a client tell me that their check is or their bill is paying for my boat. I don't own a boat. Just be a good client. But that's a huge thing. We've fought really hard over the
Yeah.
past. We had to put a client code of conduct on our website. The clients, even though they are the blood of our hospital,
Mhm.
that's why we're there.
Yeah,
That's why we can do what we can do, and we love our good clients. But just be a good client.
yeah,
But the biggest thing was empowering the team. I love watching my receptionists hang up on somebody. And they're like, man, that felt good. I said,
Yeah.
doesn't it?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I love it.
Well, that was at, you talk about retail. Schnucks did the 10 items at the self-checkouts,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And someone pulled a gun?
Yeah.
At Schnucks?
Yeah.
Because they said you have too many items?
Right. I mean, it's just people have lost their minds.
Yeah.
I don't understand what they were expecting to accomplish.
Mental health is a big deal.
It is.
Openness. We're in a big change in the way the world works.
Yeah.
And it's for the good.
It is.
But there's a lot of strife to get through.
Yeah.
To get to the other side.
Yeah.
Of that.
You want to talk about a Google review?
You want to talk about Google review?
Do you want to talk about a Google review?
I'll talk about Google reviews.
All right, I'm going to read you one.
Okay.
Okay.
Tee it up though. I mean, tee up the Google reviews though, like the the stars and all that kind
Yeah,
of.
so I mean,
Hold up, before you do that,
Yeah.
is it possible to also like just ask him, like read the Google review and see how he would have responded and see what he responded and said on the actual
it's actually
Google
kind of a
review.
fun thing to do. Are you cool with that?
I'm fine with it.
All right. I'm going to read it. It's not too long. Would absolutely give less stars if possible. The staff are so incredibly rude, put you on hold without even asking, and go out of their way to make you feel small. They cancel prescriptions for serious conditions without any communication, not to mention they will add additional fees to your visit without notice and expect you to just accept it. All around, poor communication, poor staff, and poor business practices.
Love it. So
That's
I guess
tough.
that is tough, and that hurts. I mean, that's
Yeah.
because it's the furthest from the truth, you know. So I guess let me just tell you how I go about a Google review. I see every review. I get an email when we get a review. I read every review. I want my clients to know that it's not a random person reading it; it's me. So when you say something bad, it hurts,
Yeah.
but I take a step back and I say, why is this person feeling this way?
Mhm.
So I look into it further. I see who it is. I look when the last time we saw him. I like to see who talked to him. I will go talk to that person and say, hey, what happened? So I try to gather all my information before, and I usually don't reach out directly to him unless it's, a comment that's necessary.
Yeah.
But then I do formulate a response on my Google review just because I love all my 5-star stars. I love my 4 stars. I love my 3, my 2s, and my 1s. I love them all. I reply to every single one because they're all important. But when they're negative, I want to figure out why.
Yeah.
And sometimes, the internet, people think it's, a safe, faceless place. You got keyboard warriors and such. So I want to figure out why. And if we did something wrong, I want to fix it.
Mhm.
If we didn't do something wrong, I want people to know the truth about that situation. So
That's exactly basically what you had. You had a very long response, actually.
I did.
The Walgreens protocols, we haven't seen you in over a year, so that violates, the laws regulating that. And so,
doctor-patient relationship.
yeah, all that stuff. So you handled that exactly right.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to reply. I'm going to be honest. I'm not going to be mean. I'm not going to spill any medical information.
Mhm.
But I think, and the more owners do this in any industry and don't accept reviews that are negative, that are false,
Mhm.
I think that's a huge thing. Because if we do something wrong, I'm going to reach out to them. I'm going to leave a reply back and apologize. Ask them to reach out to me, reach out to them to make it right.
Mhm.
If it's a simple coaching thing, that's wonderful. They showed I can't see everything at all times, so I want them to tell me. And I do appreciate those reviews that are like, hey, 3 stars would have been 4 if, and that's how we learn. That's how we grow.
Mhm. Well, let me read you what I had to sift through to even find that one.
Yeah.
The staff are just incredible. Our favorite veterinary practice. Excellent doctors, caring staff. One of the few places left that will, do X, Y, and Z for me. Had her first visit today. They did a phenomenal job making her feel comfortable. It was. I had to go a year ago to even find a negative one. So
Yeah.
123 reviews, 4.7 stars. I don't think that you get much better than that.
No.
I appreciate that, and we
that's-
work hard for that. And I talked to you guys, or at least to Kale, the national lecture I was just at by a big marketing firm for vets, and they said you don't want to trust a place with 300 ratings and they're all 5 stars, because people know nowadays you're buying those reviews.
Right.
But you also are highly suspicious of a business that has 101 stars, where, nowadays people get mad and they ask all their friends and family to go leave a 1-star review, or even worse, it gets viral on the internet, and there's 1,000 1-stars reviews, and Google has to shut it down. So I think reviews are important, but I think most people who are looking for a professional service like a veterinarian know how to read through that. So 4.7,
Absolutely.
4.8, I think that's a wonderful, and I appreciate everybody who has left reviews.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think reviews are huge, and like you said, keyboard warrior. I think there's a lot of people out there that are just having a bad day,
Yeah.
and they needed somebody. We don't know what's happening in their life that made that happen, right? And you
Yeah.
just happen to be. It probably would have been anybody, but it just happened to be you that day.
Right.
And so I do think that replying to him is important. You do a
Yes.
good job at it. But I do have to say it took me a long time to find that one.
Well, I appreciate that. And I've had multiple times that I reply, and I want my clients to know when there's a reply, it's me. It's nobody else in my business. I'm sitting down between appointments, seeing the new puppy and the dying 18-year-old cat to reply to your review. And I've had multiple people, I think, that were having a bad day because as soon as I reply, they either delete it or they reach out.
Right.
And I appreciate that.
Right.
So,
Well, if what I understand on that review, the original one you read may not have had a whole lot of facts in it, or
just
truth to it.
almost zero.
Yeah.
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 But I mean, yeah, we did. I don't remember all the specifics. We did decline their refill they requested, but I mean, there's laws that we have to follow, and people, I guess they don't understand that veterinarians have laws like human doctors. We have to follow certain prescription laws, doctor-patient relationships, things like that.
Yeah.
So.
Well, what's unique in the veterinary medicine compared to human medicine is that you're dispensing.
Yeah, we're a pharmacy and we're the clinic. So.
Yeah. Yeah, not a lot of that left out there unless you're a big hospital, right?
Right.
But,
and then we have to deal with big pharmacies too because we go through human pharmacies. So.
Yeah. That's pretty wild. No, those Google reviews, Kale's a great thing to bring up because, we find a lot of veterinarians because they're the negative world, they focus on that one negative review, and they've got 100 that are great reviews.
Right.
And so, it's not that it's not going to hurt. It's not that it's, but it's easier to go, okay, I am doing a good job. We can learn from this, or we can find out, maybe it's not even true, but you can always learn from even the ones that aren't true to go, how do we even communicate to that person maybe a little differently too? It's like, is there a different way to say, or who knows, right? It's like communication. What
sucks is, those reviews, those stars, that people forget there's people on the other side of those. And as the owner, I'm fine. I'll take it. It'll hurt for a minute. But man, to see my team member that was the one who, being accused of doing this, and they think they're gonna, it's all coaching. They're not gonna get in trouble.
Right.
But they're upset. They're mad at themselves.
Yeah.
They're mad that this is on the internet because they think they did something wrong. And that's a huge thing that I've really worked with people, that it's like, 99% of this is not true. With the true part, how do we fix it? How do we not do that in the future?
Yeah.
But the rest of it, just let it go.
Yeah.
And it's really hard for people to do that. It
is.
It sticks with them. So what I do try to do is every positive review, I either email it to the group, we print it, we post it. That person gets a pat on the back, a great job. It's important to recognize them, that they're part of that. So
yeah, absolutely. And think about what is truth.
Oh, don't even.
What is it?
Oh, here we go.
What is it?
All right, Kale.
I think it's a great time to maybe wrap it up.
Hey, I tell you what. Thank you so much.
It's been a pleasure.
This is fun.
It was fun. I can talk for hours.
Yeah, we can.
It's a great industry. It's a great profession. So I want people to feel positive about it.
We do too.
Yeah.
And you couldn't have been better to be on our third episode. We're going to get tens and tens of views.
I wish I was number one, but that's fine.
You are number
really
one
don't.
guest. Number one guest.
That's true. That's true.
We'll get you a shirt.
All right.
So, yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah. You already got him a shirt.
I already got a shirt.
Okay, never mind.
Yeah.
I got a shirt.
The number one guest shirt,
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
I appreciate it.
Kale, thank you so much for co-hosting with me.
It's been a blast.
Lindo, thank you for directing back there and
Thank you.
keeping us in line on everything you do. And look forward to the next Vetted podcast. Till next time, bye-bye now.
Peace out.